Hi, everyone. Kevin Williams for the Shore Sports Network with a real treat today. Obviously, there's been a lot of attention paid in the last week or so. This is the 20th anniversary year of the Toms River East American Little League All-Stars winning the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. The guy who was a huge part of that and to me is the answer to one of the great trivia questions in sports history, which I'll save for later, is Mike Gaynor, the manager of that team. And Mike, fresh from a trip in Williamsport this weekend, is kind to give us some time and really look back on 20 years, which right off the bat, I can't believe it's 20 years. And heck, you look pretty darn good.
Thanks.
I think we got to start with most recent, and that was this past weekend, the reunion in Williamsport. 11.
Well, we got to back up a little bit because I had my 50th class high school reunion. So it was a year of reunions. And I can tell my wife it's downhill from here. But this weekend was special.
Yeah, you know, you and I had chatted last week before you went, and obviously you were looking forward to it, but I don't know that you knew exactly all that would happen. And when I saw you today, the first thing you told me was, it's as good a weekend maybe as I've ever had.
Yeah, it was right. I mean, I've had a good life, believe me. But this weekend was, I can't even describe it. It was so memorable, seeing all the kids, not kids anymore, but having them all together like that. It was just, it's hard to explain because I seen some of them periodically here and there, but now they're, my coach, Kenny Kondak, who was with me all three teams, he came in with his wife, his son, his grandkids, his daughter, Big Joe Francischini with Joey, his wife, his daughter, another daughter to be, pregnant. Eric Campese had gotten married a couple months ago. Scott Fisher getting married in a few weeks. R.J. Johansson getting married soon. Brad Frank's wife. I mean, to meet all their wives and their families. And Tommy Gannon, his two little ones. Big T was there. I mean, it was just Mike Bellistock. We were pretty much 11 strong. Unfortunately, we had one boy couldn't make it. 11 meaning Todd, and so there was 10 of them, pretty much hanging out. But it was, I mean, I can't describe the joy that they had for each other, seeing each other, the love and the laughter and the carrying on. It was, I'll tell you, the first night we got there, I was kind of taking it easy. So they had the Holiday, literally paid for the Holiday Inn Express. They flew Gabe Gardner in from Colorado, who's soon to be a dad, and they flew Kenny Kondak in from Arizona, who's since retired out there. And I hadn't seen him in like about 10, 15 years. So he walked in, he said, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" And then it was cool. He gave me a big hug, and he said, "Thanks for the vacation." He goes, "Without you, we wouldn't be here." So I thought that was nice. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, I was like, it was about 10:30, and the next day they were picking us up at 9 o'clock for brunch. Then we were going to Little League field, and then we were going down, out on the field, and then they were taking us to dinner somewhere, and then we were going to the Major League game at some minor league facility in Williamsburg.
Bowman Field, yeah.
Yeah. So it was gonna be a long day. So I said, well, I got a cooler because I said tomorrow night I'll have a little more fun, So I had a whole cooler of beer. So I rolled it over. There's like 7 or 8 of them in the corner just hanging out, and it was like this lounge where they had a free breakfast, and then beyond that was a pool. All glass, so a lot of kids were in the pool carrying on. So I rolled it over there and I said, "Guys, I got a full cooler of beer here." I says, "When I get up in the morning, I have to be empty." I said, "You never let me down before. Don't let me down tonight." He says, "We got your back, Coach. Don't worry about it." They got a booze all guy. I was proud of them. And then they had a few noise complaints. Again, I was proud of them. But what a great, I mean, just to see what great young men they turned out to be. I mean, they came from good families, You kind of expected it.
Now, of course, you were part of it. For us here, we're watching it. And on ESPN that day, they only showed a brief part of the ceremony before the game that was being played that day at Lombardi Stadium. And The thing that stood out, my wife and I were watching it, was when they showed the shot of Todd sort of going down the line, and every guy seemed to have a baby on their shoulder.
Yeah.
And, it kind of really, that's when it really hit me like, hey, these guys are 32, 33 years old.
Yeah, that's what's so exciting about it. I mean, my little grandson was there. He's like 13 months old, little Cam. And, that's one thing we had said. We said, too bad the little ones weren't a little bigger to appreciate what their dads had done. Yeah. But I told them when we left, I says, I'm going to have a 25th. You're invited. I'm going to have one in my backyard, and I'm going to invite all 3 teams, and I'm going to let them duke it out. Who was the best team? That'd be a wild one. Get 95, 98, 99. I'll get them all in the backyard.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder. That was my, I'm amazed by how many people are not aware of, that forget. As great as it was in 98 and as great as an accomplishment it was to win it all, I actually think the greatest accomplishment is you took 3 teams from Toms River to Williamsport, Pennsylvania between 1995 and 1999, and I'll go right off the bat. That'll never happen again anywhere, and there's even more teams involved in the World Series now than there were when you played. It was an 8-team tournament now it's 16. That's never happening again.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that, when we got out of Bristol, 1 team came out. Now two comes out. So we had to be the New England champ, and it was semis and finals. So it made it a little tougher. But yeah. Well, it was interesting. Who was ever watching this Little League World Series before we had left that morning? There was a family from Hawaii sitting there having breakfast. So I went over to introduce myself because I have a friend that I went to high school with, very good friends with, that became a professor at the University of Hawaii. So as a long shot, I went over there. Does anyone have anything to do with the University of Hawaii? And it was like, well, he works there, whatever. So it turns out it was the Yamaguchi family, the one that hit the Grand Slam last night.
Okay.
The big celebrity, Sean Yamaguchi. He's like the big star of Williamsport out there.
Yes, he is, yeah.
Yeah, the big personality. So Grandma was there, Grandpa, Mom, his brother. I guess the brother wasn't around. So the father wasn't around, but the brother was there. So some guy comes over, and I had my Little League, I had my team on there. I was wearing my team picture T-shirt all weekend. I'm going to Bar A Fridays, Francesa, the track on Sunday, and I'll be wearing this till this thing's over. Then it's back in the closet, whatever. So, but I'm gonna milk it as long as I can. Let's put it that way. So anyway, this guy comes over and he gives me this nod. He goes, "Yeah, but California's been in the League World Series, because I said I was there 3 times, whatever." So, oh man, yeah, and here's Todd, and they got a big kick out of it. So this guy comes over to California. He says, "Yeah," he said, "about 40 teams have been to the Little League World Series from California." I said, "It's a big state." I says, "Let me know if 5 teams from one town have been there. We were there 5 times, our town."
Right.
The other side was there a couple times. You got to give kudos to those guys too. So 5 teams from one town went to Williamsport. That's pretty impressive. Forget about me. I mean, just 5. It's good stuff. So I shut them up.
So I one of the things I was interested in asking you is, and I don't know that we ever had this discussion, your 95 team, which I know those players probably think they were your best team, which had your older son, Colin, Jeff Frazier, and a guy named Chris Cerullo. Just off the bat, those 3 guys were outstanding. They probably think they were better than the 98 team. But did you being there in 95 help you in 98 as a manager to how to handle the whole atmosphere?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Without 95, there isn't 98. I say it all the time because they were the pioneers. When myself and John Karkovice, and I got to give kudos to all of my coaches too. Kenny Kondak, Jay Fontanelli, God bless his soul, Big Joe Franceschini, Mike Casal, Vinny Casal. I mean, it was a collaboration of ideas. I mean, I remember when they gave me the 95 team. I'll be honest to me, why I even got it. I just put my name in a hat or something, and I went up to Kenny Kondak, who was like the grandfather of, he'd been there for like 30 years. His kids were long gone. I didn't know any, I say, "Hey, Kenny, want to help me out?" We hit it off. He was on all 3 teams. We had a blast, But it was, a little bit of his ideas, a little bit of Karkovice's idea, a little bit of Joe, whatever. Throw it in a pot, and it came out Williams, smelled like Williamsport. But yeah, because like like John and I always said, like every time we would win a districts or a sectional, we could say, there's a better team than us, you know. And then we get to the states, and it's like, how'd this happen, you know? And then you get to the sectionals, and it's like, we're in Williamsport. How'd that happen, you know? So everything was like kind of, wow, is this really happening to me? And I, you know, and because when you watch the Little League World Series, you always think it's another town. You know what I mean? It was never your town. I mean, I don't think Trell ever won a districts before that. I mean, the year before in '94, Jeff and Colin played with the 12s, and they won the district and they won a sectional game. It was the first time our league had won a sectional game at that level. Then the following year in Williamsport. So, you know, you don't think that you're going to be there. Then in '98, I belonged there. In '98, I was like, we're going to do this. This is a piece of cake, but, you know, it's never a piece of cake. But you felt like you belonged, you know. And then '99 came, and I didn't want nothing to do with that '99 team after all the, I mean, after we won in '98, all the things we did afterwards. You know, I'm running a business. I got 10 sneaker stores, you know, and I'm like not even around. My partner's like, what are you doing? You know, it's like, we got a business to run. I said, what are you doing for me? So I got my '99 team. I had Casey, I had Eric Campisi coming back, but they were just okay. You know, I don't mean to offend anybody, but we were just okay. And, you know, we'd be in the districts or the sectionals. I said, don't worry, Timmy, I'll be back in the first thing in the morning. Then we go to states. Don't worry, I'll be, you know, I'm in Bristol. And then we're in the championship game. Don't worry about it, in the office first thing in the morning. I'm in Williamsport. Don't know how it happened, but that was a good group of kids too. But it was it was important. '95 was important for sure.
Yeah. You know, again, things that people have forgotten over this 20-year period. You know, I used to always feel compelled to identify it as Toms River East American, because people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize, there was a Toms River East National, because your Little League was so big at that time. Yeah. You had to have two separate all-star teams that were divided not necessarily by talent, but by the alphabet.
Yeah, well, it's but that's interesting too, because we had a lot of talent at the time. You know, we had Jimmy Principe, who was an all-shore performer at East, and Kyle Long, and, you know, quite a few other players that I'm leaving out, you know, one of the rankings. But I tell people this all the time. If we were one league, I'm not the manager. Casey was 11. So it's no me, no Casey.
Yeah.
You know, that would have been the trade-off. So, you know, and Casey was, you know, 10-1 in that tournament. You know, not to toot his horn or something, but he was 10-1. He lost one game to South Shore in the regions, 1-0 on a bonehead play. But I mean, that was, you know, for an 11-year-old, you know, and I don't think the Nationals, as talented as they were player-wise, they didn't have that person on the mound.
Right.
You know, that would have made a difference. And then who's coaching them?
And Casey was a young 11 in '98.
Yeah, he was in fourth grade.
Yeah.
He was in fifth. I tell people, imagine your kid, you know, how old's your kid? He's in fourth grade. Okay, imagine him on a mound, 40,000 people. You know,
yeah.
I know he did a nice job. I mean, it was you know, he you know, I don't know, you know, what the reason is, but he just had that competitiveness. And I remember Big Joe Francischini. We were in Bristol, and he was in a championship game, and he goes, and he walked into the dorm, and he said, "Hey, Big Joe, who's pitching tonight?" He goes, "You are." He goes, turns around, he goes, "Good." So he enjoyed the moment for that, you know. And you see the kids out there now, and some of them
shy away from that.
Yeah, wilt a little bit. They wilt a little bit. The tears come, you know, and the other ones get a little tougher by it. So you know, but it worked out. You know, it worked out for sure.
At what point in '98? Well, how about the road? I mean, everything's focused on Williamsport and to a lesser extent to Bristol, but you got to get there. So what do you remember most about '98, just trying to get to the Eastern Regionals?
Well, the other side of town, obviously, is always tough. And I know in the States, we got very lucky with a Cherry Hill team. We were losing, was it? Yeah, it was the States. We were losing, you know, and we had the sectionals in Spring Lake, and they had a team HDRB A, in that Trenton area, and they always coming out of pretty good. Steiner and those guys, they play pretty good baseball down there, and they gave us a hard time. But I had Scotty for the championship game, and Scotty was a beast. I mean, his curveball was just, he threw 2 no-hitters in the regionals. But we were in the state first game against Cherry Hill, and they had a young fellow named Caruso who wound up playing center field. He was very, very quick, and we couldn't. Scotty and Todd would come back to the dugout, and they go, "We can't see the ball, coach. He struck 14 of us out." So we're down 2-1, and it was the top of the 6th inning, and they had a backstop that was just a couple feet in back of home plate, so the catcher couldn't catch him. So every time he would miss a strike, he would just lean back, throw the pitches. So anytime we had a base runner, they couldn't go anywhere. It's like, we would have had a pretty decent night if we could have been running around the bases. But the guy would just go like this, turn it, and throw it back to the pitcher. So we're down to, so there was a play where Gabe Gardner somehow, I think Casey had gotten a hit or was on base, and Gabe got caught round the 3rd. He gets into a rundown. I'll never forget this. He gets in a rundown, and he gets tagged out for the 2nd out. And I'm watching these guys go back and forth, and I look up, and there's Casey standing on 3rd base. Now, he's the slowest guy in the world. I mean, nobody moves worse than him ever, So, and I go, whoa, my man, what are you doing here? He just kept walking around the bases as they were going back and forth. So now he's on 3rd. So I call timeout. I get a pitch run. I believe it was Chris Cardone. And they had 2 strikes on the batter. And the pitcher threw it over to catch his head. And it hit the pole that they attached the screens to. And it trickles up the first baseline. 2-2. Then the bottom of that inning, and we talked about this in Williamsport with the kid. I remember Mike Belstock was talking about it. In practice, we always shot the bag. We hit balls to the gap. We never hit cutoffs because the field's short. We had the pitcher cut off in the infield. He never went behind the backstop because there's 5 feet back there.
Right.
We were a major league field. I remember when I first got a major league team, and I called Billy Rankin up. I said, Billy, what's the deal with these guys backing up behind the catcher or the bases? It's like 4 feet, So I came up with just getting a cutoff, for left field. He'd slide over in between the mound and 3rd and whatever. So, but when the ball was hitting the gap, we shoot the bag. So this Caruso guy gets up. He hits one in right field in the gap. Whatever. He's flying around the bases. Mikey Bellistock got a cannon, just throws it to Todd, hits Todd on the fly, and as Todd is catching it, the kid's rounding 2nd. He turns around and flips it to Gabe. Gabe's waiting for him. Out number 1. Next 2 guy gets hits. We get out of the inning. We got 2 in the top of the 7th. And we wound up winning the game 4-2. So, I mean, there was a couple breaks, skill, whatever. But that was, and then after I failed to mention, after it hit the pole, strike 3, next pitch. Game over. Game over. Yeah. And that was the first game of the States. And we're not going through that tournament in the
losers bracket.
In the losers bracket. And not happening. Not happening. Funny story, 95, real quick. Pitching rules were different. You get a kick out of this. So we did lose the first game of the States. So Colin pitched Tuesday. Never been done before. A team losing the first game coming out of the States. 1995, down in Gloucester City. Colin gets beat on Tuesday. Jeff wins on Wednesday. Colin wins on Thursday. Jeff pitches on Friday. Colin comes back on Saturday to win it. Colin, Jeff, Colin.
Which you couldn't do today.
Couldn't do today. So we win the whole tournament. Funny story. We get to Williamsport. So they want our pitching staff to meet under the stadium and see how they pitch because they didn't want to embarrass kids by calling balks on national TV. And everything was new back then, 95. I mean, they didn't televise regions like they televise the regions now, semi and final. You know all the players before they get to Williamsport.
Absolutely.
So we get there and so the guy goes, bring all the pitching staff. So Taiwan's there, and it was when that pitcher from California turned his back. Hideki, no, who was that guy? Rabu or who was that?
Hideki Arabu, who played for the Yankees.
No, for the Dodgers. No, the Dodgers.
I
Yeah,
know
when Cy Young Award winner, and he turned his back to the pitcher. All those guys were doing.
Not Valenzuela, was it?
Yeah, it might have been
Fernando Valenzuela, right?
No, he was a lefty. I think it was a big right, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So they showed. So every team had like 7 or 8 pitchers. All the American teams, they had like 8 or 9 guys. So the guy running the show goes, "Where's your pitching staff?" I said, "You ever see the movie? Do you ever see the movie Jim Thorpe, All American? Great movie. Jim Thorpe gets off, Burt Lancaster, he gets off the train
Yep.
with Pop Warner.
Pop Warner, yeah.
And the guy comes over and he says, "Where's your team?" He goes, "Right here."
That was like you.
That was, and I always love that analogy. I love that movie. And the guy goes, "Where's your team?" He goes, "Right here." He wins every freaking event. Guy goes, "Where's your pitchers now?" And the guy goes, "You got it all the way here with these two?" I said, "Yeah, let's see our stage. We're Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday."